They told her she didn't belong in first class. But when she finally looked up, the room understood who really didn't belong. Who was the quiet black woman in seat 2A, the one they tried to remove, and why did her silence shake an entire airline more than any angry speech could? Today, you'll hear how a single flight exposed the hidden habits of everyday bias, and how a woman named Naomi Carter turned a humiliating moment into a blueprint that changed an industry. If you believe stories like hers deserve the spotlight, subscribe and turn on notifications. Every click keeps women's voices, her voice, alive. The intercom snapped like a nerve. "Captain Morrison, we need you up front." Now heads lifted. Screens paused. 147 passengers felt it. The ripple that starts small and then owns the room. Seat 2. A didn't move. Naomi Carter didn't raise her voice, didn't plead, didn't flinch. She had handed over her ID. She had shown her boarding pass. And when the questions tilted from procedure to prejudice, she stopped answering. She checked her watch. She waited. Jessica, the flight attendant with a voice that was always a little too certain, leaned toward Naomi's aisle. "You're holding up the entire flight. The captain's coming." Naomi smiled without showing teeth. "I know." Her phone buzzed once. A notification slid across the screen. "Legal team. Standing by." Everything ready. Captain Derek Morrison arrived like a low-pressure system, gold stripes catching the cabin lights. 23 years had taught him one thing: handle problem passengers fast. "Miss Carter," he said, the vowels clipped and official. "I'm Captain Morrison." "There's been some confusion about your seat assignment." Naomi lifted the boarding pass in 2 fingers. "Aurora Atlantic Airlines, Flight 2891, Seat 2A, business." Everything on it was painfully, meticulously correct. He checked the watermark, the timestamp, the PNR. It all sang the same song. Legitimate. Behind him, phones were already up. One passenger, Emma, was live. 8,000 viewers and climbing. Comments spilled like marbles. Did she just say that? "This is going to blow up. / keep recording." Jessica's patience snapped first. "It's fake," she hissed. "Look at her." "Really look. Does she belong here?" The cabin changed temperature. Morrison straightened. "Ma'am," he said carefully to Jessica, "I need you to explain what you mean by that." "You know what I mean," she said, and for the first time her voice shook. "People like her don't usually fly first class. Not like this. Not dressed like this. She probably bought from some sketchy site, or it's a trick." Naomi turned her head. Calm. Precise. "People like me?" No one breathed. "Driver's license," Morrison tried again, clinging to protocol like a life raft. "Credit card to verify the purchase." Naomi reached into her jacket slowly, eyes on the captain's hands because she knew this choreography by heart. The way a black woman moves when the room has already decided what she is. She placed a black American Express Centurion on the tray table like a gavel. Morrison had seen one. Once, in a magazine. He'd never held one. He didn't reach for it now. Jessica scoffed, almost relieved to find a new foothold. "That doesn't prove anything. Those seats are $800. She probably gamed the system with miles." "I paid full price," Naomi said, voice even. "Today, 6:43 a.m. Specificity is a weapon when the room doubts your right to exist." The number landed and stayed there. "Captain," Jessica said, turning the cabin into a jury. "Other passengers are uncomfortable." He looked around. The businessman in 1C, the couple in 2C whispering behind a hand, the teenager in 4A holding her phone like a shield. Uncomfortable wasn't the word. Hungry was closer. The intercom crackled. 9 minutes to departure. "Miss Carter," Morrison said, I'm going to ask you to deplane voluntarily so we can sort this out at the gate. No. The word was small and surgical. It cut clean. Jessica exhaled like she'd been waiting for it. That's it? I'm calling. Security. Naomi checked her watch. The second hand slid without hurry. Captain, she asked softly, are you familiar with Federal Aviation Regulation 91.11? Morrison blinked. Specific. Uncomfortably specific. That addresses interference with crew. Good, Naomi said. Then we'll both be precise about what is and what isn't interference. Security boarded. Officer Janet Kim, Officer Miguel Rodriguez. Measured steps, palms visible, zip ties tucked in like secrets. Ma'am, Kim said gently, we need you to come with us. I'm in my assigned seat with a valid boarding pass, Naomi replied. I'm not going anywhere. Emma's counter flashed 30,000 live. Hashtags sprouted. Hashtag flying while black / hashtag seat 2A / hashtag Naomi Carter. Rodriguez inched closer. Ma'am, refusal can constitute interference with operations. Federal offense. Naomi lifted her eyes to him. Officer, are you familiar with the legal definition of unlawful detention? Something in his jaw moved. He'd heard those words in rooms where outcomes are expensive. Morrison's radio buzzed with static and urgency. Captain, ops here. Social is spiking. Handle quietly. Quiet was already impossible. Naomi opened her briefcase with deliberate grace. Inside, a leather folder embossed with a logo no one recognized, until they did. She passed a business card to Kim. The color drained from the officer's face. She showed Rodriguez. His Adam's apple climbed and fell. What does it say? Morrison asked, mouth dry. Kim swallowed. Naomi Carter, chairwoman, Aurora Atlantic Airlines. Silence is never truly silent. In that moment, it had a sound, metal and disbelief. Jessica's throat closed around a laugh that didn't come. No. Board members don't fly commercial. Morrison's phone lit up with a call he'd never received in his career. Captain Morrison, a voice said, old and made of authority. This is Senior VP Watkins. You will take no further action against the passenger in 2A. Corporate is handling this directly. Naomi folded her hands. Captain, you had concerns about my documentation. We had no way of knowing. That, she said, not unkindly, is the point. You didn't ask. You assumed Emma's live count tripped 60,000, then 90,000. The comments bled. This is it. I'm shaking. / make this a case study / fire them. Morrison tried to square 23 years with the weight of this minute. What happens now? Naomi tapped her tablet. A conference window bloomed. 6 faces in grid, ties too tight, smiles missing. Aurora Atlantic boardroom. The room stood when Naomi appeared. Not protocol. Respect. Ms. Carter, Watkins said, voice softer now. Are you safe? I am, Naomi answered. But our training isn't. She swiveled the tablet so Jessica could see the reflection of herself in a wall of executives. Ms. Martinez, Naomi asked, would you repeat what you told the cabin about people like me? Jessica's lips moved. No sound came out. Tears made tracks she couldn't wipe fast enough. Naomi tapped again. New document. Title in clean, unfancy type. The Carter Protocol. Equality in the Skies Initiative. Subheader. From awareness to accountability. I didn't board this flight by accident, Naomi said, and the sentence rippled across every screen in the cabin. We've recorded 47 discrimination complaints this quarter. I needed to see if our policies protect passengers or just protect the company. She looked to the officers, then to the captain. No heat, just gravity. They failed. "But we won't, Ms. Carter," Rodriguez said quietly. "What happens to us?" "You tell the truth," Naomi said. "On camera, to the people you hurt. Then you help fix what you broke." Kim nodded, eyes bright with something that looked like relief and shame at once. The plane finally pushed back, 37 minutes late, and the quiet felt earned. At 28,000 feet, Morrison stepped from the cockpit, uniform suddenly a size too small. "Miss Carter, Naomi, how many times has this happened to you?" Naomi considered. "I'm a black woman who flies 200,000 miles a year. Pick a number, then add what didn't get reported." Morrison's hands shook. "My son is mixed race. And today I realized what it feels like when the room decides who he is." "Then you have a reason to change," Naomi said. "Not because you got caught, because you finally saw it." They descended into Phoenix as news helicopters traced their shadow. On the ground, a small city had formed at the gate. Reporters, attorneys, federal investigators, and the kind of executive assistants who only run when careers are burning. Inspector General Torres met them at the door. "Ms. Carter, this is now a federal civil rights investigation. We'll need statements." "You'll have them," Naomi said, passing the tablet. "Start with this. The Morrison-Martinez case study. I've been building it for 6 months. Today, you'll see why it's required viewing Torres scanned, eyebrows rising as if pulled by string. You prepared for this? I prepared for the day training would meet reality." Behind them, passengers streamed out, some touching Naomi's shoulder the way people touch monuments. Emma held up her phone. 100,000 live, then 150,000. The stream had become a broadcast. The broadcast, a record. Watkins called back within the hour. The decision was fast because the world was watching. Aurora Atlantic would announce mandatory anti-bias training written from passenger experience. Naomi's experience. Third-party auditing of customer interactions across all hubs. A zero-tolerance policy with real public consequences. An independent ombuds office empowered to stop a flight when bias is alleged. And a $10 million equity fund supporting industry-wide standards. "Is that enough?" Watkins asked. "It's a start," Naomi said. "Don't buy our way out. Learn your way out." 3 months folded into themselves. Airports blurred into hotel carpets, briefing rooms, union halls. The Carter Protocol left conference paper and went into hands. Jessica spoke first in Houston, voice frayed, confession messy and human. People heckled. People hugged. On flight lines at dawn and in training rooms at midnight, they told and heard a thing that terrifies systems: the truth. Morrison told his story in Denver with his son in the front row. "I thought I was following procedure," he said, "but I was following bias disguised as procedure." Somewhere in Ohio, a white woman named Sarah Thompson watched an agent corner a Latino family at boarding. She remembered Naomi's video, lifted her phone, and said the sentence that changes rooms. "I'm recording for your safety." The family kept their seats. Complaints dipped 89% in a quarter. Not because bias was gone, because more people saw it before it hardened into harm. 6 months later, at 2:07 a.m., Naomi sat in her office above a quiet city that had once greeted her with sirens and microphones. The emails still came. Not from PR, but from people. "I found my voice today. I saw it, and I said something. I work ramp crew. I stopped a removal that didn't smell right. I think I changed a life." Her phone buzzed with 2 messages in the same minute. Jessica. "Detroit tomorrow. 500 new hires. Still nervous. Still going. My daughter watched me last night. She said, 'Mom, I'm proud you tell the hard part.'" Morrison. "My son asked if he can help present." He wants to tell other kids what it feels like when adults finally listen. Naomi stood at the window, city lights mapping a new kind of constellation, one made of small choices, tiny braveries. She opened a draft titled, "Seat 2A Wasn't a Throne." It was a classroom. Her fingers paused over the keys. She thought of the day a stranger told her to prove she belonged. She thought of the day an entire room learned that belonging isn't something you show. It's something you stop asking for. She hit publish. The view counter blinked. 1,000, 5,000, 15,000. Somewhere, another ordinary person felt their spine assemble. And on a red-eye to Seattle, a flight attendant paused, took a breath, and said to a colleague, "Let's ask before we assume." A tiny sentence, a seismic shift. Sometimes justice lands with the wheels. Sometimes it begins when a woman refuses to stand. She didn't want applause. She wanted fairness. If stories like Naomi's matter to you, subscribe, share, and tell one person why asking before assuming saves lives, jobs, and dignity. Because change doesn't happen only in boardrooms. It happens when one woman in seat 2A looks up, and the whole room finally sees.